Hey guys, welcome to this new series. Today we're going to be talking about basically marriage and I guess myths surrounding marriage. Is the grass greener on the other side? This series was inspired by a few events. I used to do kind of YouTube talks on YouTube about relationships and things like that. And recently on Instagram, I had an Instagram poll where I was just discussing with different people about their views. And I found out that a lot of people have very distinct views, very interesting views. And so I wanted to bring on people who I knew and could vouch for to answer some of these tough questions and to basically just explore these topics of relationships and just myths surrounding them and just making sure that we do it from a biblical view. So I'm going to bring on both guests, Comfort and Dee, who are joining me. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Welcome. So if you guys would like to just introduce who you are and I guess where you're at in terms of, your relationship status.
All right, go ahead, Comfort.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Comfort. I am married. I've been married for 1 year and 5 months. Yeah, I'm a nurse by profession and yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Dee Rose. I am a mother of 4. I'm also married. I'm a homeschooling mom and I also run my business from home.
Amazing. And this is why I have you guys here, because you're both doing a lot of things and you're married and yeah, we want to hear from you. So I'm going to kick it off. So in terms of this particular topic, I think oftentimes we can be quite conditioned by what we watch, on TV, in movies. We see, marriage as like the pinnacle of success. And if you're not married, you're unsuccessful, or there's something missing, or there's just something wrong. And so I'm going to let you guys answer whether this is true or not, because I have very strong opinions, but it's not about me. Yeah, let's just kick it off. In terms of, obviously, you're both married, but before you were married, did you think that the grass was greener on the other side? Did you think that marriage would almost solve issues or, make life better?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I went through phases before I got married. Yeah. I think I went through a phase where, I was desperate for love. Phases before I got married. And then I went through a phase where I was like, okay, I don't need a man. And then I went through another phase where I was like, you know what, Lord, I'm content as I am. So I think throughout, I don't think I felt that marriage was going to solve all my problems, because I had seen people around me who were married, who marriage didn't solve their problems. So I didn't really feel that. But I did feel like maybe a man would kind of feel a void of love in my heart before I got married. Like when I was in that phase of, I'm desperate for love. Like after that phase, it was, maybe I don't need a man. And then that was another phase. And then, and then the phase of, Lord, at your time, it's fine. So I don't know. I would say I didn't think that the grass was green on the other side, because I had seen, like, if you're real with yourself and you see people and you spend time with married people as a single person, you will see that it's actually not as what you call glamorous as people make it seem. Like there's a lot to it. So because of that, I didn't feel that the grass was green on the other side, because I was exposed to married people around me. Yeah.
Ah, amazing.
How about you, Dee?
Okay. Well, if I would answer the question, I would actually put it in 2 categories. So, for instance, for me, I was married quite young. I married at 21. So I didn't really go through the phase of, I want a man, or I feel lonely, so I need to get married. It's just me and I guess my boyfriend then. We had our first child, and after 2 years, we said to each other, do you know what? We really love each other. Let's get married and let's just make it right before the Lord. So I got married young, and obviously now we've gone on to have many more kids. But I didn't feel this void of, I want to get married now, even though I've always wanted to get married young. My ideal time to get married was 25 and then get my kids and everything. And then obviously, as everyone says, have all your kids before 30 and everything. That's just the ideology that I had. Then again, if I was a bit older, so let's say 27, 28, or over 25, then you start to think, okay, maybe I should get married, because as a Christian woman, you don't want to kind of feel like you don't want to be dating all the time. You want someone that you want to be with, like basically a husband, really. So yeah, I think there's two elements. Had I been a bit older, then I might have thought that way. But because I didn't really have time to think about that, I met my husband when I was 17. We basically literally grew together, we were kids together. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, that's good. It's interesting to hear both of your perspectives, because I would. So yeah, you said you got married young, and Comfort. To be fair, you didn't get married old. Like you were on the younger side too.
Mid-20s.
Yeah, which is the ideal sort of age for a lot of Christian women. So that's interesting that you said that, actually. Yeah. So I guess it was phases in terms of peaks and troughs of like, okay, I need someone, or I'm okay, I don't need a man, or but God, I get and stuff like that, which I think is really relatable if we're keeping it honest, if we're keeping it real. Yeah, people have those phases of, I want company. And so on that topic of reasons to actually get married, what would you say are like the biggest reasons to get married, or even the reason why you got married? Because I think, obviously the obvious, if you're a Christian, there's the obvious one that's there. Okay, you can't have, sex beforehand, let's get married. But other than that, what else? Why do people get married?
Doreen, I'll let you go first.
Okay. I think, obviously, for me personally, why we got married is, again, because we met young, we've known each other, and then we loved each other, and we also had a child. And we weren't married yet, our first child. So we decided to kind of make it right before the Lord, and live together and everything, especially that I think after my first child is when I really gave my life to Christ. I've known God all my life, personally. But when you go to church, because you've got to go to church. Yeah. But you don't really get what the pastor's talking about. You haven't really given your life to Christ, but it was just like a routine thing to go to church, right? So yeah, I finally gave my life to Christ when after I had my first child, and then I finally understood, the reason why it was important for us to get married. If obviously we wanted to stay together and continue together, especially our walk with Christ. And then that's why we got married as well. Outside of loving each other and everything, I think it was very important to solidify the relationship, make it right before men and the Lord. And then on the other side, I can say that people obviously get married out of conviction. Conviction and love. I would say, like you've met a brother in in church, or a sister in church, and you feel in your heart that you want to be with them. You've been courting for a while, and I think courtship as well is a very, very, very important part of pre-marriage. It's so important. If we get into that later on, but you've been courting for a while, and you've just you and your partner, you felt like, okay, cool, this is it. Like you really want to be together, and you've had the green light. Then I think that's why most people get married as well. But there's also the pressure of society, like when a woman gets older, it's like, you don't want to have your babies in the late 30s or early 40s, and you might as well just manage with whoever's there. So people do tend to, I think, compromise a lot when they get to a certain age because of society pressure, family pressure, and as well, I guess, just loneliness. Okay, cool, I don't really want to be lonely. I'm getting older. There's no time to be picky. Let me just get married. And then you got the others that feel like, no, I want Mr. Right. I want to do it right. I want to make sure I love him. So I'm going to wait and see. And then obviously, So yeah, I think there's different options. How about you, Comfort?
So why did I get married? Or why should people get married? I think for me, the reasons involved like company. So I wanted a companion, and I wanted someone to build my life with, to share my future with, and like I wanted someone that our destinies were aligned together, like in terms of like where they saw themselves is where I saw myself. So kind of growing together, because we were like aligned in that sense. And then obviously I wanted someone that I could build a family with, you know. So when I was looking for a partner, I wasn't just looking for someone who would be a good husband to me, but would be a good father to my children. And that was very important. So I was thinking about it. Does he have good leadership skills? Like, you know, is he committed? You know, things like that. You know, I was thinking very far ahead, and I wasn't just thinking, oh, okay, does he have the, I was thinking, no, is he like that now? You know, in different areas of his life. So those are the you know, the reason why I got married is for companionship and for building a future with someone. In short.
That's so good. So good. And I think it cut out slightly, but I think you said something along the lines of you weren't just looking at potential, you're looking at
I was talking about what I could see now, what I could, something tangible that I could work with now.
That's good. And I think we'll get onto dating and stuff probably in a couple of episodes, but that's really good to hear. You guys clearly had quite high standards, and you knew what you were looking for. But let's go back to the phase before you got married then, because you kind of knew what you were looking for, and you knew you wanted a companion, you knew he had to have characteristics, you know, godly characteristics. But in terms of, I guess, that jump between being single, having free time and things like that, having your independence, and then jumping to marriage, I think oftentimes people kind of ignore the I guess the responsibility that comes with being, you know, in a relationship, the responsibility that comes with being married. They just see the glamorous fantasy movie side to it. And so if you guys can remember, what are some things that you could do or you did in your single state that you may not do so much now, or you have to think twice about doing now? And vice versa. You guys.
Okay, you want me to go? I have to think about this one, because I feel like I'm still living my life the same way, kind of. Maybe because I don't have children yet, but I mean, obviously, like now, like I have to actually like ask my husband about things before I do it, whereas before I just used to do it, you know. Like even to come on here, I checked with him first if he was okay with it before I did it. Whereas before, like I didn't have to answer to anyone. Like I just go, I just do things, I just plan my time the way I want, and if it works out for me, it's good. You know, I don't have to answer to anyone. So I think that's the main one that, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, you know, but I think, I can't think of anything else. Maybe planning finances as well. That's a different thing, because like maybe there were things that I would have just spent money on straight away, and then now I have to like think about it, and like we have to discuss whether should we do it this month or next month, you know, rather than I just spend money straight away, you know. So I think that's the main two things.
So basically having to consult with someone, and also just about everything, finances, when you're going
time,
everything
that you do.
Okay, that's cool. And Dee, I know you have 4 kids, been married for a while. Is it the same for you? Is it different?
Okay, so for me, before we got married, I think I went through a lot of filtering of friends. So for instance, I mean, obviously, not that I had a lot of friends, but I knew quite a lot of people, and you know, they're the kind of school friends that you kind of take along with us to secondary school and you get to college together and everything. And I quickly learned, I don't know how to put this. I quickly learned, like, okay, going forward, what kind of people do I want to be around, or do I want to be around my family or my children and their image or what they're about? Does it reflect me and what I'm about now? And are we on the same path? And I'm saying this, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they needed to be married, because I've got quite a few single friends, but is like when I finally gave my life to Christ, it was like more about, okay, are they Christian? Do we share the same values, or do I have to filter what I say around them because I know they're not Christian? I wanted to be around people that got me, I got them, I'm fully comfortable, and I could have you around my family. It was very important for me to not have the kind of friendships where, okay, we're friends outside, but okay, you can never come to my house, or we can never be friends like that around my family. So, one thing before marriage was obviously filtering friends, and understanding who I was and who I've become and what I wanted around me. So that's one. I would say another one is obviously considering that you're not alone anymore, that it's not really about you, like Comfort said. If she wants to get up and do something, um, she can't really just get up and say, okay, well, let me go buy this or let me purchase this. You know, it costs £200, but that's okay. Next month I get paid again. You know, it's really about planning ahead and discussing, and a lot of that changed um, when I would say when I got married, but obviously before we were still together before, so we were planning a lot together. But when I got married, I think I guess I started to mature because again, me and my husband grew up together. I think it's different when you get married, I guess in your mid 20s and above, because at that stage you've been working for a while, you already know, you've been managing a lot, so it's like you both come together at a stage of like your life where you've been in the working world, you've managed a lot together already separately, and that can combine. Whereas me and my husband, we kind of like learned as we went along to get it to manage things and to build and everything. So yeah.
That's really interesting. That's cool. I think you were clearly intentional when it came to when it came to like just I guess singleness into marriage. But I guess because you were also quite young, you guys had the opportunity to grow together anyway. And so I guess the things that you would have experienced before getting married is different to what Comfort experienced before getting married and what I experienced, whatever. So yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you. And in terms of I guess, is there anything that you maybe almost like wish you did while you were single before you got married? That was quick. Take it away. Take it away.
Okay, so obviously I got married whilst I was at uni, and during that time, everybody was traveling. It's like you've literally left mummy's house. Some people went off to live at campuses, and even if they were at mummy's house, they were kind of commuting, and they still had that kind of freedom. It was no more, come home at a certain time. Where have you been? There's more trust. There's more freedom. Once you get to that uni stage. I don't know for many people. I know that generally, and from an African household, that's how it usually is. Once you get to uni, you get a bit more of a release from your parents. So for me, when I got to uni, I saw everybody traveling, going here, going there. And I had this kind of desire, like, I really, really want to travel. Like, I want to go all these different places. But then at the time already, when I was in uni, I already had my first child. And then long after, got married, then had like 3 kids, year after year, which that every time we did want to travel, we had to really consider, okay, but we need to plan ahead for the child. We're moving homes, we need to do this, we need to do that. So it always kind of went to the back. Traveling was always at the back. So whilst being married, we have traveled to America. I went off to Dubai. I was pregnant and went off to Dubai by force by fire. I think one of my friends were like, okay, cool, we got the same birthday month. I've always wanted to travel with you. I've traveled with all my other friends. Come, like, should we travel? I want to say to my husband, look, I always want to travel. Do you think it's okay for me to travel? I was like 5 months pregnant. And he was like, yeah, sure, but just be really careful, X, Y, Z. So he gave me the green light, paid for the ticket and everything, gave me pocket money. I was like, so I got to travel. But during my singleness, I think traveling for me is a big thing. I've always been, I started translating French and Spanish in school. Like, I love languages, I love different countries. I've always wanted to travel. So I've traveled like different places, obviously Spain and different places. But during my singleness, traveling is something that I would have done a lot more.
Okay.
So, yeah. How about you, Comfort?
I don't know. I don't think there was anything that I wanted to do when I was single that I didn't really do. I think if I had maybe saved enough money, maybe buy a house, but I didn't have enough money to do that. But I mean, I don't think there was anything. I traveled when I was doing my first degree. I did an elective placement. I kind of traveled a bit growing up as well because I went to different places. So with my parents, and then also I traveled with friends after uni and stuff. So I don't think that there was anything in particular that I would have wanted to do that I didn't do. I don't know, that maybe I'd have to think a bit more about that, but I can't think off the top of my head if there's anything. Oh, do you want to say something?
Finish. And I'll get another one.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a lot more money, yeah, I would have loved to buy a house. Like, yeah, but I didn't have the money to do that. So, yeah.
Yes, I was going to say one thing about money. One thing that I wish I was taught when I was younger is the importance of saving big for, like you said, like a house or these kind of things. Like if I was younger and I was taught, okay, cool, you've got your first job, you're working here, and you're getting money at the end of the month, instead of enjoying that money and getting clothes. That was the thing, you're young, like, okay, I want to buy some new clothes, I want to go out to eat, it was all these things. But one thing I kind of wish I would have done when I was younger was saved a whole lot. Because I mean, I had savings, but not significant savings that you could say, okay, I'm married now. Let's put our money together and get a property, or let's put our money together and do this. Like I said, like me and my husband, we literally grew together. So the savings and the this and the that, we kind of did that together. But before then, had I had that mentality of, okay, business, work, find something to do and, build that money financially, I think I would have been, it would have been a thing that I would have loved to have done when I was younger.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think that's something that people don't really, I guess they kind of think about, but not really. It depends. That finances thing of like, okay, well, if I want to get married, then I should really, save up. Or I don't know. I think, as you say, when you're young, some people just you're living for yourself, essentially, right? You're just like, okay, let me just spend my money how I want, when I want, and if I get married, I get married. So it's interesting, but I think that's a really good point. Okay, let's move on to the flip side. So I know, Comfort, we'll start with you. You said that when you got married, or before you got married, there's nothing that you didn't do that you wanted to do. I don't know if I just messed up, but now that you're married, are there things that you can do, or like has it enabled you or empowered you in some way to have more of a freedom to do certain things that you couldn't do before? And if so, what?
I mean, now I have a travel buddy, like I have a permanent travel buddy. So if we want to travel together, we can. I mean, we've gone on a major trip together, or actually two, which has been nice. But I mean, planning our lives together, like putting our finances together, there's other things that we want to do, in the future. So I think it gives us freedom because there's two incomes now. So we put it together so that we can plan. Whereas before, it was only my income that I could use to do whatever I wanted to do, So it's nice to have, like plan together and put our resources together in that sense. So I think it gives me freedom in that way.
Yeah.
And then also bringing ideas together. Maybe there's places that I've never considered traveling to that he might think, oh, that's a good one. Or like, just two heads are better than one, other things to do with our time other than traveling that we could do together because, there's other things that we could do. So, I would say that.
That's cool. So essentially, like, having another person means it enhances you because you have two opinions, two finances, you're just living life with someone, and it's good. That's cool.
Yeah.
Dee, would you concur?
I think, well, personally, there's nothing, because like I said, obviously me and my partner is all I've ever really known. I don't think there's anything that I can do now that I couldn't do before. However, what I would say is that the emotion of not feeling lonely, of having someone to talk to, of having someone to cuddle at night, just play footsie with, having someone to run to and be like, oh, so and so is happy, I'm so upset. Because obviously you can tell friends certain things, and then well, it depends what kind of friends you have, to be fair. But there's always this fear of it getting out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like obviously he becomes your best friend. You can say anything to each other, console each other, comfort each other, and yeah, be friendly friends. Do you know what I mean? So for me, what I couldn't do before is obviously have that kind of intimacy, friendship, someone knows you in and out and fully gets you and can advise you and has the best interest for you outside of your parents. So for me, during in marriage is something that I didn't have before, I guess, a companion.
You basically both touched on the same point then, in terms of just having that person to do life with. It actually makes a good difference. Okay, that's cool. And I think that's the picture that people often see, like, okay, well, I have a bestie to do life with, which is it's an amazing thing. And definitely God made us for community, and he made us for, that intimate relationship. But let's talk about myths then, because I think often that picture is the one picture that people have, doing life, footsies, just everything being cute. So let's talk about the myths of marriage. What are some things that maybe you believed before you got married that was a myth, or just things that you've just found after being married that's like, yeah, that's a total myth, or that's a fantasy, or that's just not real life? I'll give you some thinking time.
I got one. Let me say sex, right? So before marriage, people tend to want to get married, obviously because of the freedom of doing it with your partner, and thinking, oh my gosh, like, I've been hot like during my single time, like I'm married, I'm gonna jump on him every day and everything. It's a myth. Like, it's chilled in a sense where, like, it's not. People tend to think that because you're married, it's an everyday thing. Like, real life still happens. You go to work, you have children. Obviously, it's up to husband and wife to now, kind of spice it up and do their thing, however they manage it. But the myth of, oh my gosh, like, they must be doing it every day. Oh my gosh, they're free. Let me get married so I can, ease myself.
No, it's true.
I think that's a myth, and also the fact that I think it's great that Instagram shows married couples. I mean, after the Bella and Nigel weddings and everything, there's all these kind of beautiful pictures, family pictures, and all of these things. Just fantastic. It's great to see. However, one thing that I feel nobody wants to show their bad moments, isn't it? But one thing that's really, I think, a myth is that once you get married, everything is, perfect as far as you're happy all the time. You got this perfect marriage. Everybody goes through their issues, don't get me wrong. But it's a myth to believe that, everything will be fixed once you are married, as far as, finances, loneliness, and this. There's just so many things that happen during marriage. Marriages go through this and different seasons. Do you know what I mean? So to think that, marriage is my go-to, and marriage, everything will be all right, if I'm married, then that's just a big myth. I would say during your single time, if you're able to get yourself right, as far as mindset, knowing your goals. I said earlier, she said that her getting married in her mind was, okay, I want someone that can be a good leader, can have all these different great criteria. Do you know what I mean? As a husband, as a father, woman yourself. If this is what you're looking for in a man, you need to be doing that for yourself in your single time years, so that once you get into marriage, it's like you're not coming with baggage, and you're not coming with this ideology of la la land, because you're still two perfect humans coming together. Do you know what I mean? So the myth one of everything being glit and glam, because funny enough, on Instagram, you see these great weddings and everything. Oh, that couple, power couple. And then months down the line, you hear, oh, we've broken up, you know, and it's like you're shocked, you know. And again, I'm not saying that people should publicize when they're going through things, but again, because all we see is the good, perfect image, it becomes a glamorized myth of marriage is goals.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
absolutely. That's so good. That speaks to pretty much my whole generation and below. Yeah, thank you. And Comfort, what about you?
I think I would agree with Doreen, actually, especially the sex one. That's so true. You know, people have this, you know, view that, you know, it's going to be a lot more than, you know, like every day or whatever. I mean, it's really not the case a lot of the time. And then I think the other one is that your partner can't always make you happy. Ooh. I think there's a myth that, you know, your partner will make you happy like all the time. And that is so not true. And, you know, like sometimes putting the burden on the other person to make you happy and to, you know, always brighten your day. It's so not true. Like, it can't, you know, you really have to just look to God to fill the void in your heart, because we're humans and we're very imperfect, and we're limited in what we can do. You know, we can't heal each other's spiritual wounds, we can't heal each other's emotional wounds. We look to God to help us with that. So yeah, I think, you know, there's a myth of your partner always making you happy, you know. And that's the reason why some people go into relationships feeling like, oh, everything's going to be happy. And then when they start to get the other side, they're like, oh, wow, you know, I wasn't cut out for this, you know. And just like Doreen said, like marriage goes through ups and downs. Like it's always a roller coaster. So like not having that expectation that it will be up and down sometimes. Just thinking that, oh, it's all going to be smooth sailing throughout the whole journey.
Yeah.
Which is so ridiculous, because if you have siblings, you know that your relationships are not always smooth sailing. So how can it be that someone that you sleep on the same bed with, you see every single day, you know, you're just going to have a smooth sailing relationship for the rest of your lives? Like that doesn't sound realistic, but that's sometimes the expectation that this generation has.
I think one thing I can add to what you said here is about the happiness. Wolfgang said something before. He said something like, not that I follow him or anything, but there's one thing that stood out when he was going through this thing with his wife. He said that you go make yourself happy, and once you're happy, like then we could come together, and do you know what I mean? In a sense where like it's unfair for you to put the heavy burden on me to make you happy. Obviously, as a husband, I'm going to do my best. Now I'm speaking for myself. Obviously, as a husband, you know, he can do his best as far as loving you the way Christ loved the church, and to the best of his abilities, and comforting you, and all these kind of things that he can do within his power. However, it's really unfair to now feel sad and lonely and frustrated and all these emotions, and aim towards him and say, okay, it's because of you I feel this way, because you were not doing enough to make me happy. And I think, again, sometimes even in marriage, your husband could be the one pushing you to Christ even more, because the same way you're thinking your husband's going to make you happy and he doesn't, then you turn to Christ and you're like, no, God, like you're supposed to make me happy. And then funny enough, you end up deepening your relationship with the Lord, and then he fills the void, and then you change your attitude towards your husband. You're thinking he needs to change, but in reality, you are the one that needs to change and fix your gaze, and you know how I guess you see things, or your expectations. So yeah, I think what she said was key.
That's so good. That's so good. I've heard that a lot, especially from other married people that I know. They definitely talk about, you know, oftentimes they have to change, they have to work on themselves, they have to go to God, they have to seek, you know, and it's amazing. I think that's a great way. And I think even on that topic of expectations, because I think often you do have really high expectations for maybe the people you're with, or I guess going into marriage, your husbands and things like that. Would you say, and I've heard this, like, would you say that it's important to go in with no expectation, or would you just say it's just good to manage your expectations? And how have you done that in your own marriages?
I've got expectations. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You have, or you do, or you don't?
Yeah, I do, of course.
Yeah, okay. So yeah.
So compromise is very important, right? Compromise, I think, if you have expectations and they're not met, then learn to compromise, right? But before you get married, it's very important to discuss what is it I expect, what is it you expect, would you want, would you not want, what do you see in the future? Do you know what I mean? All these things are very important before marriage.
Yeah.
So, for instance, me, I'm expecting you to provide. Like, I mean, marriages, people work differently, but for me personally,
yeah,
I just don't see my husband, not obviously contributing to bills or being involved with the children and thinking, okay, well, I'm a man, or you're a woman, that's your place. Oh no, like,
oh no.
if I'm doing this, you're sweeping. If I'm doing this, and I'm not saying this as to be dominant, but just to say this is what I expect, and this is what is actually happening, in the sense where I think many men has this, especially I would say African homes, that's what I know, but this ideology of, okay, fresh food cooked, mom and dad both work, right? And once I hit the house, fresh food is cooked, the house is clean and tidy, and everything's jolly. My wife is looking all nice and pampered. That's what I think the ideology has been taught. No, there's time you come home. I'm in my car. The house is not tidy because I too am working. I'm just about to cook. Obviously, it's important to be organized, but I'm expecting you to get home from work and get involved, right? So if one kid needs a bath, then you'd go bath him or her whilst I do this or whilst I do that. So my expectation has always been, I think, I say expectations, but I don't know if it's just me, but I believe that this is just how it should be in general. Like, we're partners. I'm not your maid. I'm not your servant. Yes, I'm here to serve you as you are to serve me. But in the marriage, for me, I feel like it's teamwork. How is it going to work if it's not teamwork? Why is it that I'm the one, changing all the nappies? I'm the one always soothing the kids when they're upset, separating fights, cleaning up the house. And I'm definitely not, like, he probably does more than I do. But, like, for me personally, like, no, it can't roll like that. I think it's coming into marriage, my expectation was, let's be a team. I can't carry it all by myself.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's so good. I agree. Comfort, do you agree?
Yeah, so I totally agree with Doreen. I think that you should go into marriage with expectations. Definitely. Don't go into marriage with no expectations thinking, oh, they're not going to be met anyway, because that means your standards are completely low. I think you should have some level of standards. Obviously, our standards will be different and the boundaries that we have will be different as well. But I do think it's so important to go into marriage with expectations that you have communicated to each other prior to marriage as well. Because obviously expectations can be different. And we were all raised in different families. So maybe my husband's expecting me to cook a fresh meal every day and it's not going to happen. So we communicate that before. That's the importance of courtship, isn't it? Because you have those conversations. And so once you've communicated that, you can always go back to it in marriage and be like, that's not what we agreed. I can't meet that expectation, and we've already communicated that to each other. And also, like, the compromise thing that Doreen said about, compromising, because that's an ongoing thing. Sometimes you'll be able to meet some expectations, but life will change, situations will change, and you'll no longer be able to meet it. So now we have to kind of adjust and manage that expectation and compromise. I think it's really important to manage expectations, because, like, life seasons, do change, and sometimes mindsets change over time as well. Maybe this is a random one, but maybe you're thinking about a particular parenting style and then you now change because, oh no, I think, through the knowledge that you've gained along the way, you feel like, oh, it's not necessary anymore for you to use that particular parenting style. So yeah, I mean, I think things can change. So it's always about communication and managing situations.
That's
And
really
I think expectations will also change as well as you grow together.
Yeah.
You have different expectations because of your different season of your life. So yeah.
That's really good. And what would you say then is one thing or a couple things that someone that's single, maybe never been in a relationship, watching this, if they just don't know what expectations to have, what expectations should they have? Biblical ones that maybe you have. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, I need to
Shall I?
think of that one. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Comfort.
Okay, so I think expectation, number one, maybe is to provide financially. I know, like nowadays, a lot of feminists, like I can do bad all by myself, but for me personally, I have an expectation that my husband will be responsible for making sure there's a roof over my head, and financially responsible for that. So provision, I would say, is a very important expectation. And not just that, because sometimes people can't afford things or whatever, but what's his mindset behind finances? Like, what's his mindset behind providing? Because situations may change. Maybe like if the person, gets sacked from work or something like that, things beyond their control. But what is their mindset, and what is the action that they're putting into making sure this actually is made possible? Another expectation is, for me, coming from an African background, how will you value me? Like when it comes to like external third parties and family and all that kind of stuff, like will you stand up for me? Like that is very important, because I've seen that in African families. Like sometimes husbands tend to go to listen to their sisters and cousins and mom rather than their wife. So are we going to be one? So the expectation is that, especially if he's a Christian, that you will value my contribution and we will be one and united in this marriage. That's an expectation that you should have. Also, like service as well, like you should expect him to serve you, so you serve each other, because that's what the Bible says, that we should serve one another. So and it may look different in different households. So Doreen's already talked about helping with chores and stuff, and doing it together. In another family it could be something different, but serving one another, I think that should be an expectation. And also a big one for me as well, which I considered before I got married, was actually, maybe I might touch on that in another question, but if you but because that's more related to probably another question that you asked. But yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's a good list of things. What about you, Dee?
I think so. The question is, prior to get married, should you have any expectations, and what kind?
What kind? Yeah.
What kind? So, for instance, I would say no. Okay, I would say observe people around you. Married people is so important. I think I had family members that were married. Oh, not even necessarily married, but in a couple. Some of them were married, some of them were together and not married yet, but living as married people. You had different scenarios.
Yeah.
And I saw everything that I didn't want in my marriage. I just heard so much from people around me to observe and see traits, see things that happens. I'm not saying go and be in on what's happening there. Just observe like what's already out there. Do you know what I mean? What happens around married people in church, or what happens with your own siblings or your uncles and aunties. Just observe. And I'm sure you hear stories. Oh, auntie so and so, uncle so and so. Like these kind of things. Observe and see. Okay, cool. Like if I'm married, I could never, you know, I would never want my husband to do this or vice versa. I think transparency is so important and
Yeah.
so important. Like, if you're about to get married or, you know, in a very early stages of your relationship, obviously be led and gauge. However, I think it's so important to be transparent. It's so important to lay it all out so that
Yeah.
nothing comes up later on. It's like, oh, but you never told me this. And that's not what I expected, or that's not the vision I had. So why is it that's coming up now? It's so important to be transparent. Expect that from each other.
Yeah.
And another thing is, I know that there's many obviously marriages work differently. Sometimes the woman's the breadwinner and the dad's a stay-at-home dad and everything. However, I don't know. I've seen this many times. I've seen this situation many times where even if the woman earns more, and she, okay, this is going to be a very touchy one, so I'm trying to like gauge my words.
Okay.
Even if the woman earns more than the man, right?
Yeah.
I think the man, you should always expect or need your man to contribute or provide somehow. Because I strongly believe as much as you would like to eat your humble pie, right? As a woman, it gets to a stage, even like when you're frustrated with your partner, yeah, it gets to a stage where you start to feel like, well, I'm the one paying the rent. I'm the one paying the major bills. Like, you start to kind of belittle him, and even if you don't want to. And I'm saying this because, I mean, obviously, personally, I hardly pay for stuff. I pay for a few things here, but the minor bills, right? Personally, and which I'm very happy with. However, I've seen situations where women would now turn around and belittle the man and be like, you know, you're not, you know, providing or X, Y, Z, unless it's a mutual agreement where, you know, the man, I don't know, he's got, I don't know, he's doing charity work. I don't even know, but they've agreed that he's to stay at home and she's the working mom because of her career, because she's bound to earn more.
Yeah.
Always expect your husband to contribute somehow.
Yeah.
Just what I'm trying to say.
It's
Like,
good.
yeah, always, because obviously the word says that the man would leave his mum. Oh my gosh, family. That scripture, family. My gosh. Listen, yeah. Like she said, like Comfort said earlier, this aspect of your husband having your back, yeah,
Yeah.
in all situations. Like, I'm sorry, but like you cannot be a mommy's boy. I'm your wife now. I'm the law. You understand? I'm not the in-law. Have you heard that one? I'm not the in-law. I'm not so and so. I'm the law in the sense where, like, we run things by each other. I won't say you run things through me, but we run things by each other and we agree together. You're not gonna go now and ask your mum, Mummy, would you think for your mum to come now and interfere, or your sister and so and so? Everyone, your family around you is, for me, before you even say anything, I'm expecting them to already know their place as far as, okay, that's his woman. I'm gonna respect. I'm gonna have boundaries X, Y, Z. And if they don't, I'm not expecting you to be like, oh, well, that's my sister, you know. Oh, that's, you know, but you know, that's how this mom is. No, I'm expecting you to check them, because if I check them, I'm the disrespectful wife. I'm the disrespectful sister-in-law. I'm this and that. So I'm expecting you to have boundaries. So yeah, for me, again, it goes back to what you see. Do you understand what you see before marriage? As in like marriages around you and everything. So yeah, I think it's so important for you to have those kind of expectations.
That's so funny. But no, that's good. I think Comfort said the same thing of like valuing. How does he value you? So will he stand up for you? You know, will he back you in front of in-laws and stuff like that? Yeah, that's really good. And the provision thing, yeah, it is biblical. Again, as you say, it depends. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to earn, you know, millions of pounds, but they have to provide something. So that's really good. I think in terms of, yeah, okay. So in terms of, I guess, going back to the initial question of, you know, is the grass green on the other side? Hearing you guys, obviously you're saying that it sounds like you prefer your life after marriage to before marriage. that's what, obviously you can't say otherwise because you're married now. So it is what it is. But like, it just sounds like there's a lot of, you know, perks of being married, and that you do come in with expectations, healthy expectations, and you know, you're working through that. So in terms of like going back to when you were single then, because I know back to you, Dee, you said that there's nothing that you do now necessarily that you said something, but I'm going to correct it slightly, because I would say if you hadn't got married and had the kids and then the pregnancies and stuff, in terms of like your business, I don't know if the idea would have come. So could you kind of elaborate on, I guess, how maybe your mind changed and how that kind of developed something new in marriage?
Okay, so as I mentioned before, me and my husband met each other when obviously we were young. I was 17 when I met him, got married at 21. So at that stage, I think, like I said, we kind of grew up together. So for me, as far as business, he's a Nigerian man, and I think most Nigerian people are like business driven. They're go getters. They find new opportunity. They make money out of nothing. Like sometimes, it's end of the month. Like we've already allocated all our money for different things, and then something pops up. We need more money. My husband, I'm literally telling you, no lie. Like he will come home with money. I'm like, babe, what happened? Oh yeah, no, I had a computer there. I just put it up to sell, and like he will always. There's money everywhere. I just don't know. He does it. He's always making money out of no money. So for me, as far as business, I was never a business person. I was actually afraid of business. Let me tell you why. Because I'm such a people's person. I don't like to upset people's feelings. I don't want to chase nobody for money. I love people, so I rather feel uncomfortable than make you feel uncomfortable. And I think with business, you know, you put on a new hat. There's this new kind of like not shoulder, but this new persona of like you've got your boundaries. There's a yes and there's a no, and there's, you know, you're firm. But for me, I don't know. Growing up, I always kind of compromised my emotions to adapt to other people's emotions. Now, that's not necessarily right to do, and I grew to learn that actually, you know, you shouldn't make yourself feel a type of way at the expense of others. So yeah, as far as business, my husband was a business guy. He was like, D, like, you'd be great at business. You've got a great personality. You've got great ideas. Why don't you turn this into a business? And when I listened to him, I started doing wigs in the beginning, like years back. I started doing wigs. Didn't have a website. Didn't have. I guess I had Instagram, but like right now I've got what 600 followers on Instagram. So imagine back then I didn't really have Instagram like that. So and I made quite a lot of money. Like I bought my first Canon camera because I wanted to do YouTube and everything. I bought my first Canon camera on with the money that came from making wigs. And then obviously after some time I realized, okay, cool, I need to change my mindset. Prior to my husband, I'm telling you, I was like, I want to go to work. I want to be like office lady. I want to have the corporate image, work for the UN because I speak fluent French, fluent English. I speak good Spanish, so I'm going to work for the UN or police, and that involves traveling around, you know. And I've also got family in high places who are like, D, like if you want to do this, you know what I mean? I'm there, kind of thing. And also, it was still open, it was still there when I got married. It was still like, D, you can still do it. Being married or having kids doesn't mean that you're limited. And my husband was always like, D, like if this is what you want to do and you want to travel, we'll travel with the kids. Let's do it. Like, I'll even relocate. Like it's cool. I can adapt my work to wherever you want to go. However, I really had to consider like, is this what I really want though? Do I really want to, you know, go out there and travel around with the small shit? It could be complicated and the kids adapting to a different language. I just kind of didn't want that stress. So I would say that it's when I got into marriage, and years later that I realized that my husband actually brought out that potential of business in me to say that, D, you could actually do business. And now I'm doing like natural skincare and hair care, which is doing fantastic, thank God. But like beforehand, I would have never thought, okay, business. I would have thought, I have my kids, put them in nursery, and then I'm gonna be this business, not businesswoman, but like corporate work for, you know, shirt, pencil skirt, and I'll be like city girl, you know, I'm going to work, commuting. That's the idea I had. So after all these kids, I think my mindset really changed to actually I can do all of that whilst, and I'm not saying that it's wrong because many women do it and men, and you know, the unit is great. But for me, I wanted to raise my children, one. Two, I wanted to make sure that I mean, there's so many things happening that, you know, you come home in the evening. Am I talking too much? Sorry. I'm going to round up.
It's okay.
So, long story short, let me just conclude by saying that it's in marriage that I realized that there's a lot of things that I could also be doing, and that that came out of me, because before marriage I wasn't necessarily thinking about business. You know, but the mindset change of, okay, you've got a family now, how do you make it work? So
yeah, no, that's so good, and I love that, and I definitely noticed that, which is why I wanted to bring it up, because I think in marriage there could be a lot of great things that come, because now you have two people, as you guys were saying, the benefits of having two minds, two ways of thinking, two different people. It can bring out a lot of things, a lot of great things. A lot of great things about you, and it clearly did, which I love. So that's a great story. I love it, and your business is amazing. So yes, okay, so we're gonna wrap up really soon. So again, the question talks about, single versus married, is the grass greener on the other side? I would say, when I first posed this question and I was thinking about it, my perspective is that, like, the grass is just a different shade of green, because I think oftentimes, people look at singleness like it's almost like it's like a curse, like it's a burden, like this singleness, I just can't. But I think it's a beautiful period to be in, where you're not married, you don't have kids, you don't have these responsibilities, and you can just do kind of what you want when you want it. So I posted a Bible verse, which I'm gonna put up on screen, which is basically just talking about, when you're married, you have your husband, your family to serve. When you're not married, you can do the things of the Lord. Obviously, you can do it, the things of the Lord, in both situations, but you have more time to just serve God and live out your calling and all those good things when you're single. Next week, we're going to definitely dive into, I'm going to be talking about a lot more. But again, to the people that are watching who are single, who aren't married, because I mean, by definition, if you're not married, you're single. So if you're unmarried, what tips then would you give in terms of what people should be doing now? Like, how should they be, what things that people could be doing now, or you recommend that people do now before they get married? Obviously, you said traveling.
Clear your debts. If you have any kind of debts, clear your debts. Get into marriage with a clean slate. If you have spiritually, I think, if there's a tendency that you see that is not right. So, for instance, you feel like you're always an angry person, or you're a moody person. You love the Lord and everything, but you know that you're moody sometimes, and you're kind of up and down, and people have told you in the past that you're kind of difficult to kind of manage. Don't know if you're going to get hot or cold or lukewarm. I think that's something definitely to explore. I think before marriage, people should. I'm not saying that everybody needs deliverance, but it's so important to hit these core issues. So even sometimes later on in marriage, you realize that I can see this cycle with your family, and that's affecting me and our marriage. Let's go spiritual warfare. Let's go to the root of things and pray and everything. Whereas if you identify, and I'm not saying they don't always come in the beginning, but if you identify certain these traits before marriage, it's so important, to go to the altar to say, God, reveal to me what are the issues that I have or that may come up that I don't even know I have, or these issues, Father Lord, how do I go before your court and fight my case? And you just fight, you just literally fight for yourself first, or for the wife that you will be. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because a lot of, I think one aspect that we didn't touch is the spiritual warfare things, and I think that's just a whole different topic. But if I could touch it just slightly, it would be, honestly, outside of like things like making sure that you're debt free, checking your attitude, making sure that this man that you want, that you reflect that as well. I think the spiritual things are key, because there's these generational curses. There's these things that you see patterns of, like your brother, his relationship didn't go well. He's got like 3-4 baby mom. Your sister, she's divorced. Your mom, already you had a broken home. You come from a broken home, and all these things happen. You don't want these things to happen to you. So not out of fear, but out of wisdom and knowing better, you will now go and do your spiritual warfare. You align your blood with the one of Jesus Christ. So whatever it is that you are aligned to, I'm going a bit deep now, so I'm going to stop here. But whatever it is that you are aligned to, or you were at the root of your mother's lineage or father's lineage, is so important. These are the things that I don't think I mean, me personally, I had to learn this in marriage. It's in marriage that I learned that these things exist and it's important to do warfare, which is great because me and my husband were able to fast together, pray together, and everything. That's great, you know. But however, during your singleness, these are all the aspects that we don't really see, and we just think, oh, marriage, 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 marriage. These are some of the baggage that I'm talking about. It's not just about financial baggage. It's not just about attitude and all these things. It's about spiritual baggage as well. So yeah.
That's so good. I'm just typing notes of that. Thank you. And comfort. Do you want to jump off that?
I was just listening. I was enjoying what Dee was saying because it's so true. It's so true. Like everything she said, I concur. Like, I mean, know your weaknesses and know your strengths. I think that's what you should do in singleness. Like, know yourself. Who am I? Like, sit down, reflect, have your me time. You know, a lot of people run away from being alone, but actually, you will not know yourself very well unless you spend time alone. So get to know yourself, get to know what your weaknesses are, your strengths are, get to know the things that you need to work on. Like Dee said, pray about your weaknesses, about these things that are just, you know, that don't seem to go. Like spiritual baggage, emotional baggage, like all kinds of baggage. Pray about it and, you know, work on them. And pursue your career. Like, you know, it's really sad that some women will not pursue, they will limit themselves because they don't want to come across a certain way when men approach them. Like that should not be the case. Like pursue, because you don't know the person that's going to come for you, and you know, you don't lower your standards for someone that you don't even know yet. Like, you know, just like pursue your career, use your potential, find a hobby, or you know, like use your skills. If there's some talents in you that you would like to explore, like use that time to explore it. Like just enjoy yourself, get to know yourself, and you know, try and put time into growing spiritually as well, you know, and finding out what God's purpose for you is here on earth, you know, things like that. So I think those things are very important, because when you focus on something, you won't be so distracted. Like all the worries of, oh, like everyone else is in a relationship, I'm the only one who's not in a relationship. Like when you're focused on things, you don't have time in your mind to be thinking about stuff like that. You'll just be like busy doing your stuff, like staying in your lane, enjoying yourself, flourishing, you know. So yeah, that's what I would suggest.
If I can add to what you said about not, I guess, not lowering your standards, I think what people tend to do when they get into marriage as well is like forget themselves. And I've been in that space, if I tell you the truth. I went through the same phase of like putting on a huge amount of weight and forgetting you know what I liked, and so I just got caught up in money is my purpose. Do you understand? So I think it's like she said, like it's so important before before marriage, knowing who you are, knowing what you like, and obviously things change as you get married. If you get older, you like new things, you change your mind about something, which is fine. But if you're so caught up marriage and family, you would easily forget yourself. And as far as career, that what you mentioned, comfort, obviously, again, it's a conversation that you have with your partner. Okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what you're doing. How does it align? Or does it mean that somebody would have to like take less hours and mellow down for whatever reason? That's fine. But I think it's so important to not kind of like, yes, honor your husband and be a good wife, be a good mother, and all these things, but not lower yourself so much that you forget yourself. Just know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's very important.
That's so good. That's good. You both made amazing points. I'm just gonna touch on, I think, comfort, you were talking about so essentially don't be idle. I think you were both kind of saying when you're single, don't be idle. Don't be an idle person. It's like you're not doing anything with your life. You don't know yourself. You're just kind of just worried about when is my husband coming. So yeah, I think it's so, and I've seen it. Like, yeah, I can vouch. It's important basically to just make sure you're just busy doing stuff. Because I guess, and another reason why I would even highlight that is because, as you have both said, of being in line with the person that you meet. Because if you don't know yourself, you don't know what you're called to do, you don't know your purpose, you don't know, the direction you're going in. When someone comes with their own direction, you're either just going to lose yourself in, melting in that, or you're going to even be able to have those conversations about, okay, where are you going? Oh, I'm going here. I'm also going here. Like, you won't even. So yeah, I think it's just something that people don't necessarily think about that much when they are single. They just like, okay, well, I'll do whatever he does. Well, yeah, it's not great. But yeah, okay, cool. We're gonna wrap it up. Anyone that's watching, feel free to type in the comment section if you have any questions about this topic of, being single, becoming married, having a desire to be married. And of course, we're not saying that the desire is bad. I think it's an amazing God-given desire to be married. But it's just like, what are you doing in the current, and I hate this overly used word, but season that you're in? Like, what are you doing with your life as a single person, as an unmarried person? Are you using it well? Are you stewarding it, or are you just wasting it, kind of wishing, you were on the other side of marriage? So yeah, feel free to type questions in the box. Until then, I'm going to ask kind of like a final question. In terms of, basically still being, unmarried, what would you say is one thing that maybe either the church or if you have like any biblical references to things that are either not taught so well to unmarried people, or things that maybe you found or read in the Bible that has really kept you when you were single, or I guess just before you got married? I'll give you some thinking time.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sorry, it's really muffled. So basically, what are things that you either learned in church that really helped you as a single person, or Bible verses that really helped you as a single person and encouraged you in your walk? We'll keep it to that. Because I know in churches they do emphasize, to be fair, in churches they emphasize a lot about being in relationships, right? Marriage is driven down your neck, it's your throat, everything. But you don't really hear many people talk about, okay, when you're single, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. It's more like, pray for your husband, pray for don't have sex, and that's it. So yeah, is there anything that you would recommend? And while you do that, I'm going to just read this Bible verse that I brought up before. So 1 Corinthians is talking about basically when you're unmarried, basically you can be anxious about the things of the Lord. Like, you can be essentially good worried about the things of serving God, living for God and all those things, how to be holy in body and spirit. But the married woman is anxious about worldly things, about how to please her husband. Obviously there's context to this, but essentially they're saying you have different priorities when you're in different seasons of your life. And so know the priorities that you should have when you're single compared to when you're married. And I think it's a good scripture. What about you guys?
I think I'm thinking of a scripture that I'm even trying to find. But one thing that kept me, because I am also involved in ministry and it doesn't come before my family. One thing that I've learned is that, however much you serve the Lord within church or responsibilities, if your home, that's one thing I've learned from early, if your home is not okay, everything amounts to zero, because you're not going to come and do ministry, oh, woman of God, and when at home, the kids, mommy, I'm hungry, there's no food, you haven't cooked, or, you're arguing with your husband because he needs you to do this, but yet you're saying, no, you're not going to do this because I'm going to ministry and blah, blah. So yeah, personally, I think if you're going to, obviously your aim is to serve God and to love the Lord and everything. And obviously he's the head. Don't get me wrong, God is the head. But I'm talking about service specifically. If you're going to serve in church, always remember that the family comes first. So that's one thing, and it's kept me during ministry, because there's so much things to do. Like, there's this to do, but if I haven't bathed my babies yet, if I haven't cooked for them yet, if my house is not tidy to a point where everybody's comfortable, I'm not going to sit down in front of the computer or whatever it is I need to do in ministry for hours whilst everything's chaotic. I'm sorry, but that's going to have to wait. And whoever I'm working with or for within the ministry would need to also understand that. So that's one thing I really learned before marriage, that, it's God, the family. God comes first, but within the whole serving, it's literally your family and then
Mm. Yeah, that's
I'm
so
going to
good.
look for the scripture.
Okay. I mean, they do say family is your first ministry, so
Yeah,
that
there you go.
that's a very popular topic. Yeah, thank you. And comfort. What about you?
I just googled this scripture, so now I know where it is. It's this scripture. It says he sets the solitary in families, and I think there was a time where I was feeling a bit lonely, and not in a bad way. It wasn't like, oh, I needed someone, but it was like, it's like kind of like I was feeling like, okay, marriage is coming soon, like the Lord is going to provide me a companion. That kind of loneliness, not like, oh, I'm desperate for someone. And that scripture, like it's in Psalm 68 verse 6. So the scripture before says, in verse 5, it says, a father of the fatherless, a defender of the widows is God in his holy habitation. And then verse 6 says, God sets the solitary in families. And for me, that was quite, it was quite comforting. It was quite encouraging that the Lord would give me my own family, like the Lord will provide my own family for me. And obviously in that, like, first of all, he would provide me a husband and all that. But that one really encouraged me, that the Lord, if it is the Lord's will for you to get married, because some people, it's not the Lord's will for them to get married, but that was encouraging for me, that he would set me in a family. So Psalm 68 verse 6.
I'm just
Yeah, I put it on the screen. And I like that. And I think probably one of the biggest things where people can kind of develop that yearning for marriage is when they do feel kind of lonely, or they feel, which is fair, because again, no one's an island. We're meant, we're designed to be in community. We're designed to be around family, whether that's marriage or siblings, parents, whatever. You're designed to be around it. So yeah, that's good. I put up the for people to read. Thank you. Did you?
Yeah, I found the scripture. It's 1 Timothy 3:5. I think I've shared it. Can you see it?
I think there's a delay. It will come. Is it in the chat?
Yeah, in our chat.
Oh, okay.
Or in the private chat, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that helped you. Oh, okay, cool.
1 Timothy 3:5.
Yeah, in terms of like applying that, I guess that's what you said about basically sort out your own household before trying to, do ministry and all these other things.
Sorry, guys.
No, sorry, it's really cute. I'm gonna try and copy it. Oh, where is it? All right, cool. Yeah, here it is. All right, cool. So I think that's also another popular verse that people often quote in terms of like that they can quote in terms of partners provide for your household, or just you yourself make sure that you're providing for your household. It's important. And so would you say that in terms of a single person who obviously doesn't have a husband, that they should make sure that that's important in terms of their own household? Because I think oftentimes you look to see, okay, well, when I'm married, I'm going to be serving my husband, I'm going to serve my kids, whilst I guess you may be struggling to get on with your own siblings, or struggling with your own, have bad family ties. Do you think that's something that trickles into marriage, or do you think they're not quite the same thing?
Is that for me?
Anyone?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this one's about provision, isn't it? Because the verse is about provision, like if a man is not able to provide for his own, especially his own household, he has denied his faith and is worse than an unbeliever. I think it does trickle into all areas of life. Like if the man's mindset towards providing for his family is very poor, he doesn't really care, or he acts like he cares, but he's not doing anything about it. That passivity, that passiveness is not really helpful. So, you've got to be mindful of that. And another thing that a lot of people don't talk about, but I was very intentional about before I got married, was does he have somebody that he respects, or people that he respects, that you can call on if he acts out? And that is very important. Like the man that you're with, you have to know that there's someone that he respects to a certain degree, because that kind of puts you in a protected position as a woman, that, you know, like if this person was to act out for any reason, I'm safe because there's people that I can talk to, there's people I can address, like especially people who have like spiritual understanding and, you know, who have knowledge of the Bible. You know, that you can call on to intervene or to speak to kind of provide counsel. Because there are many people who are Christians, but some people still have issues, you know, with violence or whatever. So you still need to make sure that this person that I'm with, they have people that they respect that can check them. It's very important. It's very, very important, because sometimes pride, you know, is such a, I mean, there's pride in women and men. It's not just a man thing. But sometimes pride can drive human beings to do things that they wouldn't necessarily have done before, like in their normal state, you know. So it's so important that we don't just be like, oh, I'm so in love, and you forget about those things that are so important, like respect. You know, that is, for me, that is very important, because like, just as the financial provision thing is a way to protect a woman, I feel that that kind of counsel from older men is a way to also protect me as a woman, that, you know, like, he's got people that can check him, so that, you know, nothing bad, if anything happens, I can speak to those people. So
that's good. I mean, essentially, you're talking about accountability in a
accountability.
If they're not accountable to anyone, then
they're a ticking time bomb.
It's a scary thing.
Quickly, can you ask the question again, just to make sure that I answer it within context?
I think the question slightly changed, but I think it's along the lines of I can't even remember myself.
I think it was mainly to do with the scripture, if it trickles down into marriage, or is it something that you should look out for in singleness?
When someone's single, as in maybe they have behaviors or anything, would you say that trickles into marriage? And in terms of like providing, you know, for your household, making sure you're serving your family, maybe if you have like a bad relation before you're married, or you're just bad with relationships, bad with friendships, do you think that trickles into marriage?
100%. I think so. I think 100%. I think if it's not something that's been pointed out and dealt with from before, or even if it's not fully dealt with, but that at least you're aware of, it will definitely trickle down to marriage, and now it's your husband's baggage to deal with. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, like we mentioned before, I think it's so important to be aware of these things prior to marriage, and even if you're not, then that's okay. But if people have pointed out many times, same way people point out, oh my gosh, like, you are so good at makeup, you are so good at makeup. Take up being a makeup artist. You hear it from everywhere. If you're hearing from everywhere, you're short-tempered, or you're moody, or you're always late, and you know that you're always late, then these are things that you would learn to manage. Because now if you're now married, and you know you have an appointment with your husband and this and that, and you turn up late, that's another issue that you have created. And especially if the man is a punctual man, he feels this utmost disrespect if you're late. This is your own wahala. So these kind of things before marriage is so important to tame. And again, as far as ministry, if you're in church already and you know you're serving God already, and obviously during your singleness, like, you have free time, so you be serving devotedly and so much, which is amazing. But once you're married, it's important to realize that it probably won't be the same unless both of you guys are pastors, or whichever way it is. Like, it would not be the same. You would have to learn that family comes first, and you'd have to, like, kind of like, you know, tame that down, and not think, okay, well, you know, I'm in the choir thing, and you know, every Saturday we have meeting, but oh my gosh, guys, we need to speak about this, because I have seen this firsthand, where families do not get their, let me put my camera down. Like, families do not get their family time, because ministry has taken over, or because mum is part of the choir team, and dad, I guess, helps the pastor, was a leader in church or whatever. So, and even if the dad's not a leader in church, right, and the mum's the one in the choir, right, and the dad probably does everything, something else that doesn't consume so much of his time,
Yeah.
I have seen it in so many families that it becomes a problem that every Saturday you work from Monday to Friday, weekend is usually family time. So how is it every Saturday from 12, and it's always bang in the middle of the day, from 12 to maybe 4, from 4, you have meetings, the singing can be on point, and then 4 p.m., like what are you doing after 4? Things are almost closing before then. So I think it's so important to put family first. Obviously, if church puts down a day and time for all the meetings, sometimes maybe you can miss one, or maybe you can do one virtually. Now everybody's on Zoom. Maybe you could do one virtually, but to say that you're gonna consume yourself with, ministry and church, like I need to, like you're not impressing anybody. Even God will be disappointed with you because yes, He wants you to serve, but if you're neglecting your children, your family, everything's good, like the scripture in 1 Timothy 3:5. But if a man does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of the church of God? Right? That scripture is basically everything. If you're giving all your time to ministry and everything, and you're not minding what's happening at home. Maybe your daughter, she's leaving the house, she's sneaking out. Do you know what I mean? Or your son, he's being bullied, and your other child is not learning properly in school. Your eyes are not there to observe because you're fully into, again, like I don't want to make it seem like ministries, but it's a beautiful thing, but with management is basically what I'm trying to say. Once you're married, once you're single, most single people in church, are so devoted and so into everything and here to serve. And anytime you call them, they are available. When you're married, it's boundaries. So yeah.
That's good. That's the real. It's true.
Sometimes I'm in a meeting, he goes, babe, meeting again. Didn't you just have? I'm like, oh yeah. So for these things, I would have to mention ahead of time. Like, oh, remember this time and that time, I have a meeting, or I'm preaching on this day and that day, so he already knows. But if everyday meeting, the partner may end up resenting either the leader of something or the church or this and that, and just, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if he's Christian himself, there's this kind of like, bro, like I'm the husband, and you're giving me more time than me. You know? And when it's time to, okay, let me stop there.
You preach it, girl.
No, that's really good. That's really good. And again, I guess the bulk of what you're saying is that your priorities will change when you are married compared to when you're single. So when you're single, even going back to that scripture again, you can focus on what you're focused on. You can choose what you focus on. You can choose how you spend your time. When you're married, now your family becomes your priority. Your home becomes your first ministry, and you have to make sure that is a priority. And so I guess to people who may be in a rush to marriage, if your life right now is very focused on many, many things and you don't want to give that up so soon, then I guess don't be so much of a rush to get married. Obviously you can, it depends what your husband does, but just prioritize your time, your free time right now. And on that note, I'm just going to go through some of the comments and read them, and then we're going to wrap it up if no one has questions. So Zillion said, great insight. Benedicta said, love that I'm the law, not the in-law, which is what he said, which is a great quote. Let me scroll. Amazing. This is awesome. Very important. So important. Clapping hands. So yeah, clearly you guys have been saying stuff that has resonated with people. We've been giving great advice to people who are both married and single. And I'm sure that people definitely learn a lot from this, and the wisdom and the realness, because you definitely both kept it real, which is why I love the fact that you're on this panel. So just ending then, is there if there's one last thing you want to leave with the singles watching this, what would it be?
Don't be in such a rush to get married. Like the grass, yes, it's beautiful yes, there's the great aspects of marriage, you understand? But don't be so in a rush where you forget, you forget important things as far as making sure that you're good in all the different things we say, different areas that we spoke about. So, financially, mentally, spiritually, all these aspects. It's like, don't please don't glamorize marriage. And especially if you're 25 and over and you're not married yet, you've seen all your friends married and everything. I think it's so important to not compromise. I think the difference with me personally is simply that I got married young, so we grew up together, right? Which is also beautiful. However, once you reach a certain age, so 25 plus, you've seen a lot of different kind of, seasonings of boys, different kind of behaviors of men, different things, and you know what you like, you don't like, which makes you a bit more picky, which is fine. However, I think obviously there's wisdom that needs to be applied to it. One, and two, it's really, I think it's just so important to not like good compromise, yes, but don't compromise to the point where, oh, because I'm one getting older and I must get married. Two, don't rush to get married because everyone else is getting married. Just when it's short time, it's short time. And also make yourself available if you want to get married. Like, you're not going to get married being stuck at home. If somebody's inviting you to a ministry, I'm not saying, go fish for men, but like make yourself available as well. So you never know. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I would.
That's great. Thank you for the comedy too. That's good. Comfort. What about you?
I think I would say try to use your time wisely. Don't be idle. Use your gifts and talents. Just be busy, really. Because honestly, like when I met my husband, I actually wasn't fishing for men. Like he said, I was just like living my life, just doing things, So just try not to put it at the forefront of your mind. Pray about it. Pray about marriage if that's what you desire. But try not to be obsessed with it. And just if you desire marriage, if that's what you desire and you pray for, then also observe what you want in a marriage, how you want your marriage to look like, and pray about that. So that's so good.
Lovely gems from both of you. Lovely gems. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a round of two for my fellow unmarried people. I think it's important that, as you said, don't be desperate. I think it can be definitely harder said than done, because there is a sense of desperation, especially when you see so many single women who are 25 plus, or so many who are even men who are older desiring and they can't find the person. But don't let your desperation lead you to settling. Don't let it lead you to making wrong decisions. Don't let it lead you to wasting your time when you are single. Just use every moment that you have as purposely as possible, because once you're married, you can't turn it back. Be like, oh, let me go back to singleness, let me just give this child back. No, that's your child forever and ever. So I think it's important to just enjoy every season that you're in, because God definitely designed each area for a reason. So that's it. We're going to end there. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. Thank you, everyone that's been watching and engaging. We are going to be back next week at some point with another topic alongside this whole relationship theme, just to reiterate why I started. So, I think oftentimes we just think that things are green on the other side, and oftentimes that may be the case, but oftentimes also it's not the case. And so it's just important to just love where you're at, be content with where you're at, no matter how hard it may feel, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, sounds like, whatever. Just live your life and live for God. So is there anything you guys want to plug, anything anywhere that people can find you, if they have any follow-up questions, or are you done?
Rose, go ahead. I don't have a plug anywhere.
You're low-key. It's okay.
Not at the moment, anyway.
Well, for me, I mean, my Instagram's there, and I'm also on YouTube as Zero. So if you ever want to, I share on YouTube. I share building the business whilst homeschooling my children, and so I share how I kind of work from home, have the homeschooling, and manage it all. So if you're interested in that, then that's Zeros on YouTube, and then that's also my Instagram, where I'm very active. So
love it. Amazing. And Comfort, who's low-key and very low-key.
I mean, I have an Instagram page that I hardly ever use. So, if you want to contact me, then you can probably message me, but it will take probably like 2 weeks before I reply. So,
we got your wisdom today, which is really great. So thank you guys. I hope you guys have an amazing evening. And this will be available, the full replay will be available on my channel. And we will be back with another juicy topic. So feel free to DM me topics if you guys know some, and we'll go from there. So yeah, bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.